Let me tell you who cares about free speech. Nancy Pelosi. She cares about speaking freely. She may speak in a slightly comic and camp voice. She may be a little grandiose, but more information is emerging daily about the truth around January 6th, which again was historically and hysterically conveyed as an extraordinary event, an insurrection, the worst thing that had ever happened. And I'm not sure that everything that happened that day was fantastic. But Donald Trump always maintained that he wanted to deploy the National Guard. Obviously, we're aware that Nancy Pelosi initially denied that, although she's now on camera saying that she takes responsibility for not using the National Guard. First of all, let's have a look at Donald Trump saying that he did want to deploy the National Guard that day.
What?
Did you call military or law enforcement at the moment the Capitol was under attack?
I'm not going to tell you anything. Let me put it this way. I behaved so well. I did such a good job. Nancy Pelosi turned down 10,000 soldiers. If she didn't do that, and now
Nancy Pelosi doesn't have the authority that you have as commander-in-chief, though.
Listen to me, Kristen. Listen to me. I understand that the police testified against her, the chief very strongly against her. Capitol Police are great people.
I like how he remembers all these little details. I did a great job, great people. Like he always remembers to tag these little details, doesn't he? Now, at the time, as you can see from the news anchor there, Nancy Pelosi had strenuously denied responsibility for the National Guard and whether or not they were deployed. That's why it's embarrassing that there is now footage of her saying exactly that. Let's watch a little more of Donald Trump communicating in a pretty convicted way, and convicted is a word that's significant for him now, that he did indeed suggest the deployment of the National Guard.
They testified against her. I asked her to be there 3 days in advance, and she turned it down.
She says that request was never officially made.
Oh,
just so you know.
Let me just tell you.
Let me ask you about pardons, Mr. President.
Okay, let's have a look at Nancy Pelosi now. Now, you have to sort of pay close attention to this. I'm not sure where this footage comes from. She's in the back of a car. It's pretty extraordinary.
We have responsibility, Terry. We did not have any accountability for what was going on there, and we should have. This is ridiculous. You're going to ask me in the middle of the thing when they've already breached the inaugural stuff that should we call the Capitol Police?
Right, let's look. She's about to say, look at the subtitles. Should we call the Capitol Police? We're about to have Nancy Pelosi admitting it.
Police? I mean, the National Guard? Why weren't the National Guard there to begin with?
They thought that they had sufficient resources.
That is not a question of how they had been. They don't know. They clearly didn't know, and I take responsibility for not having them just prepare for more.
I take responsibility. No further questions, Your Honor. But that didn't stop her going on legacy media to prevaricate about the matter.
Why do you think this is stirred up and a brouhaha on the right and in some corners of the media today?
Well, because of the fact is that the President of the United States, the former president, and his toadies do not want to face the facts. They're trying to do revisionist history on January 6th. But we cannot let us be dragged into their, again, false impression of what happened that day. They know what happened that day. They know how serious it is and was, and continues to have an impact on our country. Last night I received the Lincoln Award. I was so proud of receiving that.
This is actually about the Lincoln Awards. You know, can we focus on the Lincoln Awards, please? That's what's important. Let's not get sidetracked in public treachery and deceit.
And I said in my remarks, Lincoln built the dome on the Capitol. He insisted that it be built during the Civil War so that it could show the resilience of America. And to see these people coming through the Capitol with their foul deeds and foul actions, waving Confederate flags and Nazi flags under Lincoln's dome was so shameful.
That's brilliant, actually, because what she does there is sanctifies the Capitol spaces. And that's precisely the problem. They have, in the project of secularism, made sacred the institutions of government. These places are sacred. This is a cathedral. How dare they come in there and blaspheme with their heresies of Confederate flags and Nazi flags? People are allowed to have flags in a democracy. I don't think any of us would endorse Nazi flags. Many of us have seen footage, all of us have seen footage from January the 6th, and no doubt there were some pretty, let's call them hot moments there. These are contentious times. But the idea that the space is sacred and the people are profane, I think is pretty significant. I think it's pretty important. You can tell that what Nancy Pelosi actually believes is that ordinary people have no right participating in the way that they are governed. America was, to a degree, built on protest and freedom and civil rights and civil discourse, and occasionally that is going to lead to hotly contested moments and moments of conflict even. I suppose, like many of you will talk about how around the same time there was the BLM movement and many other sort of social movements that involved protest and public dispute and public disruption, and often, sort of displays of recklessness and even violence. I suppose power is really about who gets to desecrate what, who gets the control, who gets to make arrests, who gets to tell the story of reality. Churchill, our great leader, once said that history is written by the victorious. The problem is now that we have competing narratives being told continually in real time. And you have one group of people that think that January the 6th was a moment of sort of legitimate protest, and other people that believe that it was an insurrection. And I feel like that what Nancy Pelosi ultimately is the kind of last vestiges of a dying system, along with figures like Joe Biden. Now, I know a lot of you believe that Donald Trump is the future. I feel that what we are experiencing here is the necessity for some serious and radical change in the way that our nations and indeed our planet and therefore our individual lives is governed. The fact that we can be on the very edge of what appears to be a potential nuclear conflict, and we're still caught up in cultural issues, and we're still unable to get any kind of consensus, let alone referendum, on whether or not we want a war, shows you how far from the principles of democracy that she is claiming to worship we have come. The principles of Lincoln and Washington and the various significant authors of American democracy and its great practitioners have been left behind a long while ago. Your nation, like mine, has become a globalist, corporatist project, controlled, it seems, by unelected bureaucratic agencies that have a global purview, not a national one, that continually use the language of protection while practicing surveillance, while continually tell us that they're acting in our best interest to facilitate our convenience, while it seems always ultimately be motivated by projects of dominion, resource, utility, and power. And I feel like Nancy Pelosi, a lot of us intuit when we see her, this is a person that we just cannot trust. This is a person that speaks on behalf of those dying institutions. But that is just what I think. Why don't you let me know what you think in the comments and the chat.
Hey, this is exciting. We've got a great partner today. It's Rumble. But beyond Rumble, it's Rumble's latest venture. Let me ask you first, are you a Sleepy Joe type character with zero cognitive performance, struggling to muster focus and brain power for basic things like running the United States of America? You've got to stop drinking woke liberal coffee that hates you and your way of life and start your day by drinking Rumble's very own 1775 coffee. This is going to be the best tasting coffee you've ever had. Seriously good, ethically sourced from a family farm in the high altitude mountains of Bolivia. Not in the Bolivian lowlands, run not by a family, but by a single man, still living with a pet. No! Instead of waking up and drinking your big corporation-owned woke ideology coffee that's probably making you sick from the pesticides it's sprayed with, try Rumble's 1775 revolutionary coffee. Support freedom of speech. Build a parallel economy that actually values you and loves you. My favourite? It's dark, of course. I've always found the lure of the dark irresistible. I'm sorry, how can I stay mad at you? You're just going to have to wait over there for a little while. Level up your morning routine with a 1775 coffee. Sleep all night knowing your hard-earned dollary dues are going towards supporting freedom-loving creators like me on Rumble. Visit 1775coffee.com now, pick up your first bag, use the code BRAND to save 10% on your first order. Oh, come on. Why choose, you know?
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.